Okay. The next common thing I hear is you don't want to improve. Oh man, you have to lean back on that. Was a good one. Mira, I'm not kidding. I can write a book on this subject. I can write an entire novel on this. No jokes. This is gonna be a long one, man. A passionate one. I have a huge hard on for SBMM. A huge one. Huge.
I believe you. We both have experiences with it, I would say. And
Yeah,
so
man.
this is dear to our hearts.
I was gonna do this one without you, but I knew you couldn't resist. I knew you had to be here for this.
I have to.
Oh, I know you have to. We talk about this all the time. I can't believe we're doing a video on this, by the way. This is so random, but I mean, it's not like there's content right now, anyways. It's funny too. I used to rant about this, like SBMM, months ago, so much during my stream, and then it kind of just disappeared. But now it's like all over the news. It's trending on Twitter. It recently made its way to the FGC, so I'm just like, damn, I get a run back on this. I get to join in and actually have an excuse or a reason to make a video about it and talk about it. So I'm happy about that.
For sure.
Okay, so there are so many videos on SBMM or skill-based matchmaking, guys. So many. So I'm going to try to keep this as structured as well as I can. And we're going to explain absolutely everything about it. Even the things they don't tell you. So you can make your own opinion. Own your own opinion, your own mind. We're not trying to, brainwash you here. But to make it clear, though, we are kind of biased. I am against strict skill-based matchmaking for certain games. Specific
which
games.
is very important
strict.
to mention
Yes.
right now, because we're gonna mostly talk about strict skill-based matchmaking, like Vesper said, but there's also soft or like lightweight skill-based matchmaking, which is another topic, right? I guess, but we might briefly mention it in the video.
We will, yeah, and for certain games too. We don't want we want skill-based matchmaking in certain games, of course, like fighting games.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, in terms of this though, like from what I'm seeing, from what a lot of people in the FGC are commenting on, I think we're the black sheep here because a lot of them don't like it at all. Or yeah, they think it should be enforced in all games, but I think they don't really understand what it means. So that's what we're gonna explain. I feel like we do understand it pretty well, Mir, since we play a ton of different genres at high level. That's very important. At high level, at high ranks. I'm not trying to stroke my ego. I'm just saying that we have experienced what it's like to be in the sweatiest of sweaty lobbies for many different games. We know exactly what it's like and the experience and how bad it could be. Don't worry, like we'll use fighting games as examples a lot. Street Fighter 5 specifically. And if you guys don't follow this channel, if you guys randomly just came across this video because you guys have a hard on for SBMM as well, I think this video will still be helpful to you for understanding what SBMM really is. And yeah, so I think first, Mir, before we start, we should start about the story of skill-based matchmaking, like how it came to be and how this all started, why it became such a trending topic all of a sudden. It actually all started, from my memory, in Apex Legends around season 3-ish months ago. It was a big thing for the game. It was killing the game. It was like day and night. Strict skill-based matchmaking just suddenly appeared. Apex trails everywhere, red trails everywhere. And it caused a lot of problems in the community for sure. And then it made its way to a more recent game with Modern Warfare, so Activision side. So it went from EA to Activision, and then they put it into Warzone, and then all the way up to this point now, where it reached its peak, is the Call of Duty Cold War. That's the newest Call of Duty coming out this year. It was very obviously in the alpha. There was an alpha test, a free alpha test, open one, for PS4 players, and it was blatantly there, and everyone's like, "Oh man, hopefully they fix the skill-based matchmaking in this game, hopefully." And then it's there in the alpha. They put it in the alpha,
Yeah.
so they knew, "Oh man, here we go again." And now everyone's complaining because they know they're gonna go through another year of the madness that is skill-based matchmaking. And then it became a trending topic on Twitter, which is ridiculous too, Mir. If you think about all the crazy, terrible things that happened this year, for skill-based matchmaking to be a top trending topic on Twitter, I mean that's impressive, you know.
There were many contentious statements, to use an euphemism, I guess. A lot of uneducated opinions, and some people voice their opinions very loudly. So,
oh yeah, of course, and we are too. So, and then it got to the point where like a bunch of COD pro players and people were posting videos of them reverse boosting and killing themselves with nades. And there's even people showing footage of like playing the alpha, and their entire team was killing themselves with nades, not even playing the game, just manipulating the matchmaking because it was just so bad, and it's already causing terrible problems. It's gonna be a mess, honestly, already. And then since it became the top trending topic, it went to the FGC, and there was a ton of ignorant comments on the FGC. And I don't want to sound harsh, but it's just a lot of misinformed opinions about like, well, what's wrong with skill-based matchmaking? We have it in fighting games, so it should be good in every game. And you just want to stomp noobs and all of that. Don't worry, we're gonna touch on all of that in this video, all of that. So I felt like we should talk about it too, and hopefully inform other people, especially people that play fighting games only, what it's all about and why people are complaining about. But we should make it clear, though, Amir, that this is mostly an issue with top games such as Apex and Call of Duty, to be honest.
yeah,
To be fair.
yeah, for sure.
Because it works in a lot of different games.
Yeah.
And we agree with that. So I think first thing, Mir, we should explain what SBMM is, what it really is, and why it exists. Okay?
Yes.
So SBMM stands for skill-based matchmaking. And it's basically when a game uses a matchmaking algorithm that puts players of similar skill levels in the same lobby together. So only skilled players play with skilled players, etc.
Yeah, and to the people at home, this might sound really familiar because this is how ranked mode works in a lot of games, actually.
Yeah, that's how it should work, right?
Yeah, it should
for
work.
Street Fighter 5 players, it's really easy to understand. It's ranked, right? It's like, oh, I know skill-based matchmaking. That's what they use in ranked in Street Fighter 5. Bronze players play bronze, platinums play plat, etc. Right? That is skill-based matchmaking, or at least what it was. So let me make this clear, because we're saying that skill-based matchmaking has been around forever. It's not something new. It's not some new thing going around. We've known this for the oldest games. They have it in Overwatch. They had it in Apex when it first came out, and it could go all the way back to like Black Ops 2 for Call of Duty. It's been around. It's a thing.
You might have heard it referred to as ELO system as well, which is a very similar concept for other games.
Still used to this day too.
Yeah, exactly. Like even playing chess online, it uses an ELO system, and to match you against similar skill opponents. It's a very similar idea.
Right, and it's mostly used in a rank setting. So, so this is where we need to clarify. This is the first point, Mir, the first point of the video where people are already misinformed what skill-based matchmaking is when we argue about it, okay? So we are talking about the new skill-based matchmaking, and I don't know what the term we should say. I think we should say strict or hard skill-based matchmaking. That is what people are referring to when you hear anyone complain about skill-based matchmaking. I hate skill-based matchmaking, like it shouldn't be in games or whatever, in my game, whatever. They are specifically talking about hard/strict skill-based matchmaking, not the ones we're familiar with, this new one. So, what? Go ahead, Mir.
No, I was just about to say, it's mostly because soft or light skill-based matchmaking is actually quite difficult to notice if it's working properly. So a lot of people actually don't realize the difference between the two because they never thought of their other experiences that they had as actually being a result of soft skill-based matchmaking. But instead, they see the strict skill-based matchmaking and immediately recognize that because it's very obvious, right? It's very direct.
Yeah.
And assume that that's the only form of skill-based matchmaking they ever came across.
True, that's true. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that there's always been skill-based matchmaking, exactly. Some form of it. So, before skill-based matchmaking was soft, like we were just talking about, and the ways, when we say soft skill-based matchmaking, well, what's that? It's basically what it sounds like. It takes more into account. It's a general skill-based matchmaking, so it tries to keep people generally around the same level. When we're talking about Call of Duty, you gain levels right before you prestige, so it's trying to keep that around the same. The time played is trying to keep around the same, and it still prioritizes latency. Like it's still like make sure the latency is good first and foremost. Make sure the queue times are fast. Make sure the teams are mixed and matched properly. So like if we have a bad player on the team, make sure there's a good player on the team to compensate. That kind of stuff. That's
Yeah.
soft skill based match. That's the one that we're familiar with, right? And
Mm-hmm.
like Mir says, it's hardly noticeable. So we don't mind this all, and this is fine. So this new strict skill-based matching, what people hate, or what it's supposed to do, is prioritize skill over everything else. Okay, so this prioritizes your skill rating over your ping. It doesn't care about your ping. It doesn't care about queue times. It has to make sure that every single person in the lobby, right, is better or the same skill level as you. That's what it's trying to do. Okay,
Yeah.
but even at this, it fails Mirror because, well, first off, it's impossible to really figure out somebody's skill level. Like, it just
Yeah, of
is.
course. It has to look at your in-game stats, which are not
Right,
necessarily
right. It,
reflection of
like
your actual level, skill
exactly.
level.
Like, I mean, I played like silver ranked players in Street Fighter that are better than diamond players. I swear. You can't just figure it out alone on time played, your average damage or whatever, right? You could be having a bad day or a bad week. Someone else could be playing on your account, or you know what I mean. There's so many things factors in,
Yeah.
but that's what it's trying to do, close as possible. So, uh, now we have to talk about why it exists, okay? And
Mm-hmm.
this is what I have beef with. This is the biggest thing I have beef with because it's not there to make the game fair. All right, this is what they don't tell you. It's not there to make the game more fair. The whole point of the new strict skill-based matchmaking is used so these game companies can make more money. It's used to maximize profits, and they do that by maintaining player retention to the lowest common denominator as high as possible to the biggest spending players, basically. It's trying to
Yeah.
make sure that no one's feelings get hurt, nobody gets salty at the low level, and they therefore play the game for longer and spend more money. The super casual players and the lower than casual players, Mir, those are the kind of players that they're really fickle. They move on really quickly. They always play the newest games. They don't really care about dedicating. They don't have much time to play,
Yeah.
but they have money, right? Because they obviously have more time because they have to work, therefore they have more money, and therefore they spend, right? They don't have, you know what I mean? It's not like a
And
student.
I would also like to mention that this controversy began from probably the most, like the greediest two companies that there are in the gaming market, and everyone knows them, right? EA and Activision.
Yeah, it started
Like
with
they're
EA.
probably, I mean, they're definitely top five greediest. EA is easily considered one of the worst in that sense. So like the fact that it's these two companies in particular that got like in the spotlight could be because they have a bad name in that sense,
Yeah.
but also because like some of these things are true.
I like how you say greediest. I was gonna say laziest because they're trying to use skills matchmaking as a way to make the game make more money rather than just making the game good.
I
It's,
mean,
it's, it's funny.
EA is definitely lazier than Activision. Activision, I would say, it seems on a surface level
Yeah.
that they put back some of the money at least into the games so that you can spend more money into the game. But that's like that's off topic.
Oh
There's
yeah,
still
we're
like
definitely
two
off topic.
companies that are known for kind of like their greediness. I mean
Right,
their greed. Sorry.
right, right,
So yeah, no, I just wanted to make that clear. The fact that it's these two companies is not a chance encounter.
right. Exactly. So So we first learned about this because it was actually a leaked document, a pitch on an EA document. This is when during the whole Apex thing where it started. Like I said, they found this document. It was basically a pitch, the EA explaining the algorithm in like scientific detail. I don't know if I'm even allowed to post this document on the thing, but I'm sure you guys can find it. Just search EA document on skill based matchmaking, and it goes through it, and it has actual proof. Keep in mind, guys, that this is proven to work. This is a fact. Skill based matchmaking, strict skill-based matchmaking does work and does make these companies more money. It's proven
Yes,
to work, and that's why they love
by
it. That's why they're
increasing
using it.
player retention.
Yeah, it does work. Player retention on, once again, the lowest common denominator. I should make that
Yeah,
clear,
yeah, of
because
course.
obviously better players don't like skill-based matchmaking and they're not playing because they hate it, right? So with that in mind, so I think that's the big second point here, Mir, where people are misinformed because it's not fairly assigning players together. People think that this system is made for fairness. It's just made to make more money. I think that's something that people really need to understand. It's not in the gamer's favor. It's in the company's favor.
Mm-hmm.
So what we mean by this is that it's not a super specific bracket that it puts you in where every player is actually put in equal skill levels. It's more like in Apex and Call of Duty's case, it's actually like 3 different brackets. And I'll explain these 3 different brackets. I'll use a fighting game as an example too, so you guys understand. So the lowest skill bracket, these are the players that need to focus on the most. These are the players that are like horrible, very low skill. They have no time to play. They're a non-gamer. They have a disability, right? That gives them a serious disadvantage. They're like kids, or like a 3-year-old, for example. Christmas noobs, Timmy No Thumbs, whatever you call it, right? The lowest level. And these players are actually kind of rare. The super low level players are kind of rare. But in games like popular like Apex and Call of Duty, though, especially free to play games, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
Fortnite, it's
Yeah.
obviously more common. Then there's the second bracket. These are the below average and average players, right? Which would probably be the most common. Below average, average players around the middle there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the upper bracket, the above average players. So that'd be like players with more than 1 KDA or 1 KDA. Exactly. Right? So this system is designed to make sure that the above average don't even come close to anyone else. They don't interfere with those first 2 brackets I mentioned. They're on Pluto, right? With just pros and above average players only. So to put
Mm-hmm.
this in perspective in Street Fighter 5, so you guys understand what I'm saying. So these 3 brackets in Street Fighter 5 would be something like, imagine if there was a rank lower than rookie. What would that rank would that be, Mir? Like wood rank?
Untrained. I don't know. Comfort.
So there'd be a rank lower than rookie and then rookie. That's one bracket right there. Only those guys can play each other in that bracket. And then we have the below average players that'd be bronze and silver ranks, only play bronze and silver ranks. And then after that, it would be gold players versus platinum versus diamond versus masters versus grandmasters versus warlords. They would all be put in that same bracket. So if you're a gold player, you're basically screwed. Right? You're going to be playing against the absolute best because
Yeah.
it's the queue times would take way too long if it tried to get an exact ratio, right? So it just puts them all into one thing, and that's what we mean when we say like when people are complaining about super sweaty matches and all that. Because if you're just slightly above average, you're going to be putting against the best of the best. And like I said, the below average players will be, you know what I mean? Like Street Fighter, people would complain if you were a gold player and you had to play against Ultimate Grandmasters. That is
There's
the
people that
equivalent.
complain already, even though like if they're gold players and have to play against ultra gold, and they're like, what the hell? So
Right.
imagine
Right.
imagine with that other, like huge differential.
Right. So when you see people say that, like, why wouldn't you want to play against people at the same level? That's not the way it is. It's like I said, it's done in an unfair way on purpose. Right. It's more about protecting the lower players than
It's also
actually.
really important to say that these strict skill-based matchmaking systems are applied to the casual modes too. Like it's not ranked that we're talking about.
Yeah. 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 Exactly.
Like
We're
for
not talking.
when
We're
you
talking
play
about just
CoD, when you play
the
your
the
casual
public
game, this
game
is what we're
matchmaking. That's
talking
where
about.
it's implemented. Hey there! Sorry for interrupting the video, guys. This is Vesper from the future. And as I'm editing this video, I realized we need an extra visual representation of what me and Mira are talking about. I know the video could be very, very long. You guys don't have time to listen to it all, not everyone. So I wanted to add kind of a TLDR and add some extra clarity, especially for those fighting gamers out there. We're using Street Fighter 5 as our main example of why soft or ranked what we see in fighting games is completely different from strict skill-based matchmaking that we see in games like Call of Duty and Apex. If you guys are listening to this on your headphones, you're listening to this as a podcast, I'll do my best to explain what I'm talking about visually on the screen so you don't miss out either. Okay, so in this first picture, I'm showing you guys all the different ranks we have in Street Fighter 5. Notice there's a ton of ranks, like 20 different ranks. It's a giant staircase or tower. We go from rookie to bronze to silver to gold. And we even have our subdivisions. We have super gold, super plat, ultra plat, and it goes all the way up to the big warlord status. And it takes a very long time to climb this, months for a lot of players to reach that crazy warlord status. A lot of dedication. Now, keep in mind that this is ranked only for Street Fighter V. We can't gain these ranks or lose these ranks if we're playing player matches or lobby matches. We have to choose if we want to play ranked or not, if we want a more competitive type of matchmaking. Now, I do know that player matches, you generally do play the same players of skill level, generally, but you don't lose your rank or you get worse as you lose more matches. It doesn't work that way at all for Street Fighter V. So the first thing I should point out as well is that the players you play are pretty much only in your same division or in your same subdivisions. So what I mean by that is that let's say you're in Super Bronze, you'll only be playing players that are also Super Bronze or Ultra Bronze. And it goes all the way up. So let's say you're in like Ultra Silver, then you'll play Gold players because you're in Ultra Silver, you're almost there. And you'll play one player below Super Silver players, but you won't play normal Silver players. That's generally how it works in Street Fighter V ranked. Everyone kind of keeps really close to the same type of ranked skill level, basically. So you notice that it's a very, very small, smooth climb because of this. It doesn't quickly rise up in difficulty in the skill level of players you play if you have this many ranks and you climb this slowly. You also only climb by winning your matches, and you only fall by losing your matches. It's very, very simple. It has nothing to do with like your accuracy or how many fireballs you throw. Imagine it had anything to do with that, or how many hits or combos you did if we were using Street Fighter V terms. It would be very strange. It's just if you win, you lose. Simple. But it's not like that in games like Call of Duty or Apex. It doesn't go by wins or losses at all. It goes directly by your stats and your performance. So once you get to Diamond rank, I should add, you will start colliding and you'll play Super Diamonds, Ultra Diamonds, Masters, Grandmasters, all the way up to Warlord. The only reason this is because in fighting games, unfortunately, the player bases are very, very small compared to these big tyrant AAA FPS games. If Capcom could pull it off, they would have it so these guys only play each other. But if you imagine you were an Ultra Grandmaster, you can only play Ultra Grandmaster or Warlords. You'd be in your matchmaking, sitting there, drinking your coffee. You would never find a match for like hours. So that's the only reason why that is. Okay, so anyways, this is how it generally works for ranked in games with any type of MMR or ELO system, games like League or Dota, and even card games. It's very, very specific. And another thing I should add too is that you can see the rank you're in. It's all visual. You'll know if you're in Bronze or you're Super Gold or whatever your ELO is for all these ranked types of games. Like League, you'll know if you're in Diamond League, for example. But in these other games with strict skill-based matchmaking, you have no idea where you are. Okay, so now with picture number 2. This is the best way I can describe how strict skill-based matchmaking works. The modern skill-based matchmaking that we're dealing with today in games like Call of Duty and Apex. So the first thing I should point out is you do not have a choice. You have to play in this type of matchmaking. There are no ranked matches. I mean, there are in Apex, but this is enforced in public games as well, or the different type of game types, even the ones that are not the main ones, like the limited time events and such, or in Warzone or whatever you have in Call of Duty, or like Gunfight, for example. So you do not have a choice. You have to do this. The next thing I should point out is you can't even see what rank you're in. You have no idea, and you will never know. The only way you can tell is how sweaty your lobby is, and you can kind of have an idea. Or you can kind of check the statistics of your opponents mid-match if you can. So notice that there's barely any groups. We have group 1, 2, 3, that's it. That's all there is. Imagine if there was only 3 ranks in Street Fighter V. That's the best way I can describe these groups. In group number 1, I only show Rookie, but imagine if there was a rank below Rookie, like Wood Division or Wood League. That would probably be there as well. That's the best way I can describe it. So because there's only 3 different groups, you'll notice that the climb will be very uncomfortable. It's going to be very quick. It's going to be going from 0 to 100. It also means that the descent is very quick as well, right? If you go on a big losing streak or you're doing really poorly, you'll be dropped down drastically. So it's like, imagine doing really good in Rookie and then you go all the way up to Gold, right? Or you're already playing against Warlord players. Or you do really bad and you get demoted all the way down to Bronze. That's basically what strict skill-based matchmaking is like. Now another thing is you don't climb from wins and losses. You climb by your statistics in strict skill-based matchmaking. This is how it works for the FPS games. So this is based off of kills, your accuracy, your damage, your score, and it keeps track of these stats individually each game. So what I mean by that is it's not your total stats, okay? So what it does is every single 3 or 5 games, it's going to take those statistics that you had in those previous 3 or 5 games and it's going to reevaluate you and put you into one of these group brackets every single time. It doesn't care how well you performed yesterday or a month ago. It's only in the now. And it's that's why we call it strict skill based matchmaking, because it's being very, very safe to make sure you are where it wants you to be. It's like I said, it's not supposed to be this glorifying like climb like you guys know from ranked games. Also notice how far these players are. So if you look at the ranks and we see like gold players playing with platinum, with diamonds, with that, it's every player that's above average, but they're not even close to the players that are bronze and silver, and they're not definitely not even close to rookie. They're on another planet, on another galaxy, and this is intended because they really don't want these players to ever collide. Like I said, the whole point of this system is to keep retention high, protect the low skilled players, and to generate as much money as possible by protecting these players. They don't care about the players that are above average. They just want to put them in their own little group so they never interfere with the other players. So this is why people get so confused when they hear people complain about skill-based matchmaking, because they think, well, that's nonsense. Why would you not want to play players the same skill level as you? It's just like ranked. But this is where kind of Activision, EA kind of manipulate and make you think that it's fair. It definitely isn't. If you're a gold player in this situation, you're not going to be having a good time. It's all spread out. So bracket 1 would be the players that are way, way below average. And then you have bracket number 2, which is below average players. That'd be bronze and silver. And then bracket 3 is simply just above average or above 1 KDA, and that's it. Everyone else is in the same group here. And so it's like a very giant climb. It's a very big leap, and it's not even at all. And like I said, all this is just to basically separate bracket 3 from everyone else. 2 and 1 needs to be protected because those are the most important players. That's the giant base of players, and it's also the players that spend the most money. Okay, so on picture number 3 here, this is the problem what happens when you have a game that reevaluates what group you're in every single 3 to 5 matches. Because it's such a very strict evaluation, you can have one really good game and you could possibly change your group from 3 to 2, or you can go 2 to 3, and you'll notice your game just gets drastically harder for no reason because you can't see what rank you are. So if you get one game where you get 1 KD or higher, you're just too dangerous for the above average player, so it'll boot you to bracket 3 and send you to the Sharks. And if you get ass blasted in your last game, your feelings might get hurt, so it has to protect you, so it's going to pull you back down to 2 and 1. So it's like, imagine doing well in rookie rank in Street Fighter V and then being bumped up to the Warlord bracket next match, or being pulled down to the bronze bracket right after that. It's just a very uncomfortable type of climb. It's not quite the same as ranked in other games. And the reason it does that is because the system has to make sure that there's absolutely zero risk on a decent player running to a very bad player, a very, very bad player. So if you want to improve even slightly, it's going to bump you up. And, if you get absolutely smashed, it's going to bump you down so your feelings don't get hurt. So this is why Call of Duty will never have ranked, because it breaks this rule. So if they did end up adding ranked to Call of Duty, this wouldn't be good for what Activision is trying to do, which is to generate as much money as possible. Because what would happen is these players would play ranked, right? And they would try to, rank up, and eventually they'd hit their peak or they'll plateau, and they might get their feelings hurt, right? Because they'll be stuck in whatever rank. They won't know how to climb because they won't dedicate themselves to the game. They'll end up blaming things, whatever guns OP or claymores are OP, right? Or they'll blame their team, right? And because they won't dedicate themselves to the game, or they don't have time to play the game, and eventually they'll get discouraged and they'll quit. And that's really bad. They'll make less money that way. So they don't want players to even come close to ranked. Maybe sometimes ranked has extra rewards as well, so other players will want to join in on that and get that ego boost. So that's the problem, and it can be really frustrating too, because when you're trying to do the other fun things in games like Call of Duty, such as collect all the camos, right? Or you're trying to go on a big score streak, or you're trying to earn all the attachments for a weapon that ends up starting really weak. It can be frustrating to be in a bracket, in a ranked, so to speak, bracket with strict skill-based matchmaking, and you don't even know where you are because it's invisible. You can't see it You can actually see yourself improve, or if you're in a super sweaty lobby, it could be very frustrating. Now you'll notice in this video, me and Mir don't say any compromises. We don't give any other ways to improve it. And we hear a lot of people say, well, why don't they make it just evaluate your total stats every 20 games, right? So it's not as big as a jump, right? Why don't they add boot camp, or why don't they add ranked and player matches? The reason why me and Mir don't even mention this is because the system as it is for strict skill-based matchmaking, for what Activision E are trying to do, is already perfect. It's been perfected, and it works. It doesn't need to be improved. That's the whole point. You have to understand, once again, it's not about fairness at all. It's just about generating money and to protect the lowest common denominator from quitting the game. So it doesn't need to. You don't need to improve a system that's already working as intended. So that's why me really do not like strict skill-based matchmaking in these types of games, because we understand what it's supposed to do and how it works. So I hope that added some more clarity to you guys. And yeah, back to the show. Future Vesper out. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. So once again, they've done this in a way to protect the most sensitive of players and not to make the game fair, especially for the above average. The idea is this. Sensitive players are more prone to quit the game or move on to the next game if they're not having fun for even like a single session, right? Because they just don't have the patience and the investment and the dedication. So these players have to be protected the most. That's why they're put into that bottom special bracket of rookie and worst players. Whereas the idea is that above average players are usually more dedicated players, they're more competitive, and they're harder to stray from quitting the game than bad players. I mean, people that are really passionate about, they've been playing Call of Duty every single year, even though they're pissed off, they hate skill-based matchmaking, they're protesting on Twitter, they're really passionate about it. I mean, just like you guys know, FGC, we complain all the time and want our games to be better, and we'll do whatever it takes, but we still play the game because we're dedicated to it. EA and Activision understand this better than you guys think, and because of that, that's why they're willing to make that sacrifice, that one part of the player base has gets the benefit and has fun, the other place suffers, and they basically make more money anyways because they're going to keep both sides of players. So once again, strict skill-based matchmaking is purposely not accurate. So yeah, that's the whole point. And yeah, okay. Now we're gonna kind of jump around the place a little bit, but before we get more into the games too, Mir, I also want to point out that recently the COD developers they tried this magic OS that I've heard before. They said that Call of Duty has always had skill-based matchmaking. It's always had it, Mir. So why are you guys complaining now? Well, no shit. Okay, it's not what people are talking about. And Respawn tried the same OS, Mir. I saw right through it. Respawn for Apex. They said Apex has always had skill-based management. Yeah. Just overnight, man, I started my queue and then I see like Predator trails on all 60 players.
I mean, it's just really easy to tell, especially with Call of Duty, because Call of Duty comes out every year, right? And every year is different.
Yeah.
So, like imagine you're a player that plays Call of Duty for several years and you have, you can look at your stats in the game, right? You can see your kill death ratio, you can see your score per minute, like all these kind of useful stats that you can look at to kind of know where you are, right?
Yeah.
Like you're relatively consistent across the games. Maybe you're improving too. That'd be expected, right? So you have, I don't know, say 2.5, 3 kill death ratio, stuff like that, right? Then you go to Modern Warfare and suddenly you're like down to 1.5, 1.4. I mean, could it be that the game is this different that you just suck at it?
Right.
I don't know. It's a little bit suspicious, and that's why people raise their eyebrows and raise their voices too on Twitter and stuff.
Right. So it is really funny. Another annoying thing too, Mir, is that it's a hidden rank. Like it's a hidden elo. Like you don't really know where you're at. Besides checking your KDA, you don't know where it's gonna throw you. It's just as soon as you start the game, it's already too late, And like you said, it's annoying because it's very aggressive. I mean, it'll reevaluate where you go like every 3 games in Apex. I think it's similar in Call of Duty as well. Like it just takes like a few games.
It's gotta be 3 to 5.
Yeah, like it's like as soon as you get one good game, that could be it, man. And you're gonna have one good game, then the rest are gonna be hell. It's interesting. And there's a ton of different ways to look at skill-based matchmaking, even strict skill-based matchmaking. Like we were talking before too, Mary, you were mentioning MTG on how they do theirs. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting because they have a system where if you're using decks that are not very popular or don't use cards that are very popular, like the overall rarity of the cards that you have in your deck is lower than average, right? Like the system has a way of detecting that, and it kind of like puts you against other decks that are not as good. Like it's very
Like
noticeable when
what's
you're using
meta,
the
right?
starter deck.
Like meta decks versus meta decks and stuff like that.
Yeah, pretty much. Like it's very noticeable if you use the starter decks that the game gives you. Usually, you're pitched against other starter decks.
That is interesting. I
Um,
mean, in fighting games, that'd be the equivalent of like if you went into ranked playing like Akuma, it would only match you against like Seth, Seth
well, then
or
then
Abigail
Honda would be on the
you know what
highest
I
skill
mean,
bracket, right?
or
He's the highest win
Rashid.
rate.
That's weird. That's so strange. I guess it would work for card games. That's
Yeah, I
such a
mean,
strange
and
way
that's
of doing
another
it, though.
1v1 game, by the way. Like one of the problems with the skill-based matchmaking like controversy thing is that it's applied to team games. Because Apex is 3 players, even though it's a battle royale,
Yeah.
and Call of Duty it's a team game, of course, right?
Right. Yeah.
So
Even in
that's
gunfight, it's a team
noticeably
game.
different.
Even in gunfight, bro. Okay,
The
so
2v2.
okay, let's we went a little too crazy at the negativity here. Let's talk about games that strict skill-based matchmaking actually works. All right, so we can bring our point where we actually agree with it. Okay, so obviously it works for fighting games. It has to work for fighting games. I mean, you have to have players playing the exact same skill level with each other. It works for a lot of MOBAs like Dota, League of Legends. Strict skill-based matchmaking works really well. Even when you're not playing ranked in those games, the ELO system that those games use works very, very well. It works in
Mostly because
card
the skill
games.
differential is like really huge, right? So like being matched in the same being in the same match as someone that is very bad and someone is very good, you would be immediately able to tell the difference, like on a much larger scale than games like FPS,
Yeah,
for example.
it works for games that are 1v1, right? Or
Yeah,
games that have a very large amount of skill brackets. So ELO system would go all the way up to 2000, for example. It could be very accurate. So it's like this player is ELO 1025, this guy is 1045, 15. You know, it keeps it very, very precise and exact.
yeah,
Also, games like Dota and League are actually structured very fairly. Like the map is always the same. You know, you have the laning phase. It doesn't interfere with each other as much. I mean, honestly, having like bad teammates would be even worse. It would make it even harder than having everyone the same skill level.
oh
If,
yeah, for
if you're
sure.
trying to smurf, it could be harder sometimes. With
It
my
gives you
experience in
someone to
League.
blame
Yeah,
though.
you need someone to blame exactly. Fighting games, once again, they have giant amount of skill brackets. Or we have like 20 plus ranks in Street Fighter 5. We have the rank, then we have the super, then we have the ultra, right? And then we have the next rank. It's
Yeah.
very easy to really pinpoint exactly where you are. Card games are the same thing. So, and another thing too, Mir, all these games that we mentioned, they have ranked and they have normal matches. They all have
Yeah.
ranked, okay, and they still have strict skill based matchmaking that works. And in Street Fighter, even though player match in Street Fighter does have some type of skill based match, it's more softer, but you do generally play against around the same level as you even when you play a player match. You still have the option of lobbies, for example. There's always other
Yeah.
options in Street Fighter
Yeah, that's right.
to play
And
different skill
I
levels.
think that I guess I would like to mention about casual matches in Street Fighter Five is that since we were talking about how hard skill-based matchmaking, strict skill-based matchmaking can be abused, in a way, you can look at it the same way in Street Fighter Five. Like imagine you're a person that only plays lobbies and casuals, right? So your rank never really goes up, right? Because you don't gain points.
Mm-hmm.
And the way casual matchmaking works in Street Fighter Five, it kind of like puts you around, like with people around the same skill level, like your same rank, I should
Yeah.
say. So like if you keep improving and improving and improving, then it's like permanent Murphy in a sense, right? Because you're always playing against bad players and you'll never change because you'll never get points, right? So
Yeah.
there's flaws even in these systems that, of course, not everyone abuses because it's harder to abuse, but technically that's a possibility that could happen.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now we're gonna talk about. So we know have games that it does work, what we do agree with. So we're gonna talk about the two main games where it doesn't work. In our opinion, it doesn't work for, and what most people are complaining about, and that's Apex and CoD. Obviously, we should start with CoD though, because Modern Warfare is basically the main. Modern Warfare, Cold War, and Warzone are like the main topics of this whole skill-based matchmaking where it all started.
Yeah.
So it's the main thing where everyone has concerns for. So this might be more of my opinion, Mir, but you can debate me with you if you want on that.
Hmm.
I think COD is not a competitive game from the ground up. I think it's more of
Hmm.
a super casual arcade game, FPS wise, when you compare it to the other competitive FPS games. I think they're trying
Yeah,
to make
for
it
sure.
competitive, but it didn't really start off like that. You can just kind of hop in and play. You know, I think there's a ton of things in the game that already make it easy for lower skilled players to win. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So like, for example, like in Modern Warfare, the time to kill is absurdly low. It's extremely low. So
One like one thing that's really important to mention, I feel like in here, like it's very topical, is the fact that Call of Duty as a series was born as a PC game, but was designed to become a console shooter. Like this is a game that is possible to play on a console effectively, right? There's many systems in the game that that make that a thing that is possible, right? And clearly, I mean, even though there are great controller players on console, you are more limited than mouse and keyboard, right? So clearly, there are some systems in place that let you play with those kind of controls. And you can see in Modern Warfare that they even introduced crossplay, which is something that, I mean, it seems so outlandish, right? Like, how can you have a shooter with crossplay, because PC players are definitely going to be better than
right,
console players. But
yeah,
then you have all kinds of systems in that kind of like the great equalizers in a way, right?
yeah,
And skill
aim
based
assist
matchmaking too.
and the game mechanics themselves. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why they like Counter Strike on console just like flops, right? It's so
Hmm.
hard to implement Counter Strike properly. Valorant, a lot of people are asking for Valorant to be on console, but it looks like Riot has no interest to even
Yeah.
try to get that on console. It would be just too hard, right?
Hmm.
Compared to a game like Call of Duty, they found a way. So, like you were
Based on
saying,
console, imagine that.
so time to kill is one thing. It's very very low, one of the lowest.
Hmm.
There's flinch. Flinch is when
Yeah.
someone shoots you and your fucking crosshair just goes and flies up because they headshot you, and you're like,
Hmm.
whoa, I can't aim anymore, no matter how much aim skill you have. I think you call it
Yeah.
aim punch too, Mir, the old school term.
Yes. Yeah. That's usually how it is referred in source games like Counter Strike.
Hmm.
That's where I learned it from.
The whole map design in Modern Warfare, tons of safe spaces. There's windows, doors everywhere,
Yeah, a lot of camping
claymores.
spots.
You know, they call it modern warfare, modern claymore, and
Yeah.
I hear all those terms all the time. Shotguns, dude, shotguns, man. I don't know if Amir agrees with that. You were telling me Amir launchers and explosives. You know, a lot of
Yeah,
instant
like,
kill.
I mean, in general, the game has a lot of like one-shot mechanics or really extremely low time to kill mechanics. Like, if you're caught with like you're caught off guard, you get sniped, you get shotgunned. But even like SMGs and like certain weapons that have really fast time to kill, because of how the netcode works, and it just is not reactable, right? It's below the threshold of human reaction. So you enter a room and you know there's someone in, but you have to scan the entire room, and then that guy's just in the corner. You haven't looked at, I'm dead.
Right, right,
You know?
right. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are skilled players in Call of Duty, of course, but I'm
Oh
just
yeah, for
saying there's a
sure.
lot of things that go against you too that gives other people a chance. It's built that way.
Yeah.
Even the quick respawning, so it's just like boom, boom, action. It's not like Counter Strike where you die and you have to wait like for 2 minutes and wait for your turn again.
Hmm.
Would you count the Godzilla sounding footsteps in Modern Warfare as
Uh,
an equalizer? I don't.
I mean, I have a very interesting opinion, I guess, about how more casual players tend to not use these kind of mechanics to their advantage
What?
as much.
Oh, okay.
I would say that, well, actually, in the Call of Duty community, it is, I don't want to say frowned upon, but historically, it has been called, like, listening to footsteps has been called sound whoring,
Oh, dude, I heard that term. I cringe. That should be on
that just
scrub
kind of
quotes,
puts it in
man. That
perspective,
is
right?
scrub
Like
quotes.
how it is viewed. So, I mean, it is a thing that is very difficult to avoid in Modern Warfare because you're gonna hear them. Like
Yeah,
everyone hears them.
that's hilarious, dude.
If you're playing on the couch with music, maybe it won't be as much as a factor.
That reminds me of when Scoring was playing Injustice, and Scoring was like blocking all this guy's jump ins, and this guy was complaining onto the mic, and he's like, "This is a fighting game, not a blocking game." And Scoring was like, the look on his face was like, "What? What?" Like he was so confused. Oh
Priceless.
man. So yeah, and then the game modes of COD too. There's game modes like deathmatch. Deathmatch is just imbalanced. Deathmatch on its own is imbalanced in a lot of games. It's not like arena shooters. where even though those games have deathmatch, there's like key items, right? You got the super armor or the super health. You need to guard these items. You need to know the timer of these items. There's an objective where people need to go and wear the guard,
Yeah.
right? They can't just hide in corners, wait, and then you reduce deaths that way. You can't do that. Otherwise, people get super powerful if they get these key items, and they can go around on a killing spree. Rainbow
Yeah.
Six, Counter Strike. These are like tried and true ultimate competitive shooters. Been playing Counter Strike for 10 years, man. The whole bomb planting thing is really special. The counter terrorists have to defend, the terrorists have to attack. It's very clear the rounds are short. It's perfect for competitive play. I mean, I do know that Call of Duty does have search and destroy,
Yeah.
but the thing is with competitive play in Call of Duty, even in the pro scene too, is like even they know it's imbalanced. There's a ton of things that are banned, Mir. There's a lot of
Mhm.
perks that are banned. There's maps that are outright banned. There's equipment that's banned. There's a lot of things that are banned. Even in Black Ops 4 with the hero abilities and stuff, a lot of stuff was banned as well.
Yeah.
To put this in perspective of Street Fighter 5, guys, imagine if like certain characters were banned. Imagine if certain V skills were banned or V triggers were banned. How ridiculous that would be, right? That's like the equivalent we're trying to say for these kind of games if you don't play them.
Yeah. I mean, I guess basically the long and short of it is that Call of Duty is not built from the ground up to be a competitive game.
Yeah, I'm sorry if that was a little long winded. I guess we're putting too many points there. Like I said,
Yeah.
guys, I'm very passionate about this. I mean, and Modern Warfare is notoriously known for being horribly imbalanced. At least that's the loudest outcry I've heard. Pros are literally
Mhm.
getting fined for talking
Yeah.
smack about Modern Warfare. Literally getting fined, guys. There's pro players that literally retired because of this game. There are pro players that got fined for it. There's pro players that are saying this is the worst Call of Duty ever made. And content creators, at least all the content creators I watch, hate it. They all hate it. They say
Mhm.
it's like the worst Call of Duty they've done content for. And I've watched these
Yeah,
guys since
like
Black Ops 4.
I
So
don't know if I feel as strongly about it like that, but there's definitely like you can tell that the direction they went into is that of we're going to make the game with the most content we've ever made, right?
yeah,
Because the game is full of weapons, it's full of perks, it's full of challenges. There's so many things that you can do in that game, so many things to unlock and things like that, right? And that's where the problem comes in, I think, is that, and we're gonna talk about it later, but because there is so much stuff to do and the game is not very properly balanced, if you don't use the top guns, the guns that are the best loadouts and stuff, you're going to have a hard time trying to unlock like all the things that the game kind of like throws at you.
yeah.
And that's and it should be that way in the sense that sometimes you use some janky equipment and like of course you don't expect to do as well, but because of how the game is structured with the matchmaking, it's especially hard, which is part of the point that we're going
Yeah,
to
and that
make.
used to be the main like thing of the game. It's just like max prestige, unlocking all the camos. That used to be like that's the bread and butter of the game. That's what
Yeah.
keeps you playing. That's what makes it addictive, you know. And I think
Hmm.
strict skill based matchmaking makes it even more apparent about the imbalances of the game or how it's designed. And
Yeah.
like I said, with these content creators and pros and stuff, that's one of their biggest complaints is the strict skill based matchmaking and the imbalance of the
Mostly
game.
it's mostly because strict skill-based matchmaking works against the idea of the game itself, right? In the case of Call of Duty, we have kill streaks, again, like all these crazy weapons that you get attachments from. Like, I mean, people are running around with full auto guns, and you can go around with a crossbow,
Yeah,
you know. But then you can look at Apex too, right? Like Apex Legends, when it was originally released, it didn't have strong skill-based matchmaking. It had like the soft one we were talking about, and so they felt like it was reasonable to add badges that were like, oh, get 20 kills in a single match, right?
yeah,
When it's 60 players, right?
right. A third of the server.
So that's a pretty big achievement in the sense that like kind of have to kill a third of the server.
Yeah,
And then introduce skill based matchmaking. It's like, oh well, now it's kind
yeah,
of
and everything
hard.
goes to shit. Yeah,
Yeah,
everything goes to shit. So you guys haven't noticed, Mir plays a lot of Modern Warfare. Okay,
they do.
so let's talk specifically about how skill-based matchmaking, strict skill-based matchmaking, negatively affects Modern Warfare. I guess Mir can go ahead on this, but the obvious one is camos. You can elaborate on this if you want, Mir, on
Yeah,
unlocking camos and getting attachments for weapons and the
I
streak
mean,
system. Because the streak system on its own is about dominating in the game, about getting on a crazy kill streak. You know?
yeah, and the as I was saying, it kind of works against the skill-based matchmaking works against the idea of the game because kill streaks, especially the bigger ones, are designed to make you kind of like swing the match in your favor, right? Like you're losing, oh, but I managed to get a gunship, right? Like, I'm gonna
Could you
basically dominate the
explain just
entire
so like
team
the
for.
people who are playing fighting games like understand what you're talking about like exactly,
Oh,
just
okay.
in
So
case they
sorry.
don't
The
understand COD.
gunship is the highest level streak, which is it's a plane armed with cannons and machine guns and stuff, and basically for 30 seconds you just get to rain fire on the enemy.
It's fun.
So no, that's
How many kills do you
the
need for it to
gunship.
put it in perspective? The streak? Do you know? Off the top of your
How
head?
many kills?
Yeah,
I think it's 15 kills.
it's a lot. It's
No,
like
is it
10
13
plus.
kills? I don't remember. It's pretty high.
Yeah.
Anyway, like what I'm trying to say is that you get that and you can swing the match in your favor, right? And then you're obviously gonna get a lot of kills because that's how it works. But like my point was that even if you are in a match that's kind of like even, and then you manage, maybe because you got, I don't want to say lucky, but you managed to get a good streak going, you managed to get the big streaks, then you're gonna end up with really like a really good score, and the system is gonna be like, oh, this guy is clearly in the wrong bracket because he did so well,
Yeah.
so we're gonna put him in a higher bracket next match.
Yeah.
And that happens, by the way. Like I'm not, this is not hyperbole. Like it legitimately happens like this. Like sometimes you have a match where you do really well, and then one or two matches after you can clearly see that the players you're playing against are way better than normal, like
Hmm.
way better than average, which then in turn makes it so that you don't perform as well, and then the game is like, oh, like lower bracket again.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like this musical chairs thing where um, if you do well, then you're. I mean, I don't want to use the word punished, but it's sometimes it's what it feels like.
Hmm.
And like maybe sometimes I'm just leveling up some stupid gun, right? Like I have to get 200 kills with a riot shield, like come on, to get the camos and stuff.
Right.
And that's gonna tank my skill based matchmaking, not rank, but
Your
like my
stats
elo, I
basically.
guess.
Yeah.
I'm gonna end up being in easier lobbies, and then I'll finally get my challenges done. The match after, I pick up like an assault rifle and I go on a tear, like because everyone's basically like looking the other way and listening to music.
Hmm.
I like it doesn't feel satisfying either. I feel personally because I know that I'm not playing against like not in a normal lobby, quote unquote.
Hmm. A special
So
lobby
it
just for you,
creates
man.
definitely a lot of issues, especially if you care about your stats. Which I mean, I don't really care. I usually see them as a way of gauging how much I'm improving. Right, like a classic is, oh, is my kill death ratio better this match than the match before? It's like, oh yeah, it's a little bit better. I did a little bit better, right? Like
Mhm.
easy way to tell. But overall, I don't really care. But there's a lot of people in the community that do care quite a
Yeah.
lot, and especially, I mean, there's some communities that are built around that, like even clans where it's like, oh, you can only be allowed in if you have this stat at this level, right? Like certain kill death ratio, things
Yeah.
like that. And clearly, skill based matchmaking affects that negatively because if you're playing against people that are around your skill level or better, in case you have a good match, then like your stats are going to be all over the place, right? Because it's going to be equalized, normalized towards that one kill death ratio, right?
Hmm.
And I mean that screws with a lot of things with the game, for sure. It's difficult to gauge your improvement. Although I guess you could say that if you do well and then you find yourself in a harder lobby, that's improvement. I don't know. Like I don't find it very intuitive in that sense. Sometimes
Hmm.
even straight up punishing if you're trying to do what the game is trying to make you do. Right? It's like, oh, you want to unlock all the camos? Well, tough luck. You're gonna get
Yeah,
beat
you're
up.
gonna have a much harder time than other players that do it because right they might be playing the meta, they might be using all the guns. You need to play either weapons that are non-meta to get unlock the camos for the weapons that are meta, or there are some guns that are good after you get the attachments, so you have to grind them when they're at their weakest state, right? And once
Yeah.
again, you're playing against
Like,
people that are forced to play the meta, right, in order to do well and to keep their stats, as high as possible.
yeah, yeah. This might be really silly from someone coming from fighting games because there's not really an equivalent. But
Yeah.
actually, there's a pretty decent example that came up recently.
What's this?
For Street Fighter Five, they
Hmm.
released EX Street Fighter EX costume Kairi for Ryu, right?
Yeah.
And
Oh
you could
yeah.
just get it from extra battle mode, was really easy. But to get the extra two colors, if I remember correctly, you have to win 5 casual matches and 5 ranked matches with
Yeah.
Ryu, right?
Yeah.
And I heard complaints from people that don't play the character that are forced to play a Shoto,
Yeah.
and I'm like, isn't this character supposed to be easy? Like I lost 40 times for those 5 wins that I got.
Right.
That's a very similar example in the sense
Yeah.
that you're playing in a
That's actually a
context
really good
where
example, Mir.
like the game forces you to do something if you want that. Clearly, of course, you could say, well, I don't want the colors,
Right.
right? But if you do, because you're a completionist, which is kind of like how a lot of people play Call of Duty, then you're forced to do something you don't like against in a way that it basically makes you not makes you inferior, but you don't know how to play Ryu, right? Like it's not like you learn; you're just gonna learn like this.
Mm-hmm.
So you're at the disadvantage, and you're not necessarily gonna have fun. Maybe you don't care about the character, right? Like you just want the costume because you want the costume.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's only a problem, really. What I'm trying to say is that skill-based matchmaking, it's a problem when the game's not designed around it. And Call of Duty wasn't, and they introduced that later, which is
Right.
important to mention. So was Apex with the badge example we
Mm-hmm.
before.
So another issue of Call of Duty specifically, Mir, is playing with friends, like grouping up with friends. That's
Yeah.
where it like really falls apart.
hmm Yeah, I would say. I mean, you could argue that it's very difficult to balance, right?
Well, it
Because how
is.
do you do it, right? Like if you have a person that is really good and a person who's really bad, like the two extremes, um, there's not a lot of solutions, right? You either go in a lobby where everyone's good, and then the bad player is going to have a horrible time, of course,
Yeah.
and going to be a detriment to the team as well, which will make him feel extra bad.
Right.
You either have a lobby where everyone's bad, and then the good player will dominate everyone, especially in Call of Duty because there's kill streaks and stuff. Or you average it out, and then if you average it out, which I think is what Call of Duty does actually,
Mm-hmm.
um, the good player will do a little bit better, and the bad player will do a little bit worse. But
Mm-hmm.
what that means is that like it just makes it really difficult to play with friends because I'm like, okay, well, you want to play with me? Like if I'm gonna go to a friend that I know that is not as good as me, right? It's on a completely different bracket. Like I'm not saying that like I'm pretty good and the other guy is just a little bit below me. No, we're talking about a certain differential here, right?
Yeah.
uh, if I go up to that person and say, "Oh, I just want to play, with you together because I don't know, it's fun to play with friends, right? Like we can play objective modes or whatever." I know that guy's not gonna have a good time,
Right.
and I kind of feel bad for asking, right? But
Right.
even though I really want to play, and that's the same for them too,
Yeah.
because maybe they want to play with me, but then they know that they're just gonna have a bad time.
Yeah. I have this problem in Apex too. I run into that problem a lot. Another thing too is like I said, since it's going after the brackets more, it prioritizing it over ping and queue times. It's
Yeah.
really obvious. Your
Mhm.
matches take longer to start. You're playing against
Oh yeah.
leggier players because they might be in a different country from you, just
Mhm.
because it's trying to. There's no one around you that's your skill, so or
Yeah.
in that bracket. So that's a problem as well. Because it's trying to make sure that you're in that bracket more than the actual making sure you have a fun experience or a stable
Mhm.
experience, right?
Yeah.
And then
And I mean,
finally,
again,
there's reverse boosting. That's a whole other thing we're gonna talk about, so I'm gonna skip over that. But
yeah.
reverse boosting
Yeah,
is
I
one of the
was just
most
about to
obvious
say like
problems.
one last thing about the queue times. I
Yeah.
can tell when I'm playing alone, even though Call of Duty I get like queued up relatively fast because crossplay. There's a lot of players. Um, when I play with friends, you'd expect it to take longer because it's trying to find other matches where there's teams, right? Like it tries to match you against other teams if it can.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, what ends up happening is that because I play often with people that are, a little bit below my skill level or significantly below, I find matches like super fast when I'm playing with friends. Like legit 5 seconds, I found a
Oh,
match.
really?
Yeah, and when I'm playing alone, especially if I'm playing modes that are not extremely popular,
Mm-hmm.
it might take even more than a minute. Which I mean,
It's
for
not
a,
that long.
for a Street Fighter player, it's like, whoa, a minute? That's
Yeah, a
super
minute.
fast.
That's
But,
amazing.
for Call of Duty, for Call of Duty, it definitely is noticeably slower.
Grand Blue players. Yo,
Grand
that's
Blue player.
hype. Funny. Okay, so that's pretty much it for COD. I think we made a point on COD
Yeah.
specifically. Don't worry, we're gonna bring up the common arguments that people bring against skill based matchmaking on why it's good. So I guess I can talk about my experience with Apex because I was one of the first people to experience this shit. So Apex, as you guys know, it's a BR game. I'm really high. I'm actually the highest rank. I'm Predator rank in that game, which now means like top 500. That's like insane. They had to bring it another level because it just wasn't good enough. I had like 900 average damage per game. I mean, I used to before skill-based matchmaking, anyways. But I also mostly play solo queue in the games, so I play on PC as well. So it got to the point where like when you and me were playing in Apex Mirror, like ranked is literally easier than public games when
Yes.
they crank that thing in. Like it was actually
Noticeably
easier.
so.
Like doesn't make any sense, right? Like I'm like, man, we need to fool around for a bit. Let's play some ranked Mirror. We need to cool off here from the sweatiness. We need to play some ranked. Because at least in ranked we were playing against diamond players and other players that were solo queuing, whereas in pubs it was guaranteed 3-stack preds every single
Yeah.
every single player in a battle royale.
Yeah, I
My
remember
queue times were a lot longer than usual. This happened like right after season 3, and like I said, every time I queued up, even if I was solo queuing, it would put me up against a full 3-man stack of preds, which was insane. And in a battle royale, it's really weird too because like Mira's talking about how he has to unlock camos and attachments and stuff. In Apex before, we had to do these whack daily challenges to level up our battle pass. So they'll be like, land in a specific place. That ain't gonna happen in high skill based matchmaking because everyone's just gonna land capital city in the center of the map. It doesn't care. Nobody cares. No one's gonna want to land with you if you need to learn a certain place to get your daily challenge done. You have to use certain guns. Oh man, the gun balance in Apex was so bad, so bad before. All right, if you had to use a certain weapon, you were screwed, or play certain heroes. Certain heroes are absurdly broken or really really bad, and you're gonna be going against like Wraith Sweats everywhere. So the dailies were also not universal. Like it's goes by account, so you can just have a really bad day against somebody that has a
yeah.
really good day. And another thing too is like since it's a battle royale game, it's really strange because when you get into these really high skill based matchmaking brackets, and since everyone's good, everyone wants to play aggressively, everyone wants to frag out, right? Myself included. So everyone will land in the most like hardcore
Dangerous
capital
zone.
city in the center of the map, and literally no exaggeration. After the first 5 minutes of the game is pretty much over. There'll be like no players left because everyone's dead. There's like 30 players running around with no guns because there's no loot, and everyone's punching and biting each other's toes. It's just so crazy. Whereas like if you were in the lower skill based matching bracket, like no one like dies. Like it's just like emptiness. There's still like 50 players left after like 10 minutes, and you go to the final circle and you play like your regular uh battle royale game, right? And
Mhm.
like Mira was mentioning before, there's these certain badges that you can get, so certain awards that are nearly impossible to get with skill based matchmaking. Uh, for example, there's the 20 bomb badge and 4K badge. I like to collect a lot of these badges on different characters. It's a really showcase of skill and like just like dedication to the game. But the problem is that if everyone dies within the first 5 minutes, how can you get 20 kills? There's only 60 players. So you have to kill a
Yeah.
third of the server, and it's even no matter how good you are, even if you're aimbotting. Let's say I was literally hacking, I couldn't get that badge because there's no way I can run into that many players. I'll have enough ammo for that many players, but I only have around 5-10 minutes to wipe the entire server. So it's like these badges were made in mind with before strict skill based management. So it's just a
Yeah.
complete mess, and because of that, it encourages people to reverse boost, and it gets ugly, right? Because people want those
Yeah.
badges.
It's pretty much what I was saying. The game wasn't built with the strict skill based matchmaking in mind. Otherwise, they would have never came up with that badge,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Like they clearly thought of it as the classic battle royale experience, like say PUBG, or well, I mean, I'm thinking mainly of PUBG just because the map is so huge, right? Like there's
Yeah.
you can hide everywhere. Like that, those games have a lot of like equalizing mechanics. So they clearly thought Apex
Right.
in a similar way. It's like okay, there's gonna be a lot of relatively low skill players, and there's gonna be that exceptional one that gets the badge, and he can feel himself pretty
Right.
much.
Right.
But yeah, like and then they added the skill based matchmaking, strict skill based matchmaking, because of all the reasons we mentioned before, player retention, all that.
Yeah.
And
EA
now,
was
yeah,
tested it out
without
on
reverse
Apex.
boosting, it's really hard. Like you have to be such a good player to do it
Right.
compared to everyone else.
Mm-hmm. Or have a lucky server. And like
Right, I love
and
this
there's
server.
already ranked. That's the funny part. There's already ranked, and they have strict skill based matching in pubs. So they're literally you have a choice between ranked or ranked without benefits. That's pretty much your
Yeah,
only two choices. It was
yeah,
ridiculous. It
which
makes
I guess
no
is another
sense.
important part about Call of Duty as well. Call of Duty has no ranked mode,
Yeah.
so you're playing ranked all the time.
Yeah. It has no ranked mode. It's crazy. Like it actually is crazy. And yeah, with Call of Duty, like I think I'll talk about this again, but they don't remember Activision doesn't want rank. Like the reason they don't add rank to the game is because they don't want it, even though everyone's asking for it as like a compromise or a solution. Because even with ranked, we'll talk about it more in the video, but they basically don't they want to protect these players as much as possible, even from themselves, from playing ranked, basically from these sensitive players. So another thing too, Mira, you mentioned playing with friends is really tough, even in Apex. Like my cousin, he likes to play. He's low average. He doesn't want to play because like he can't even get a single kill if he plays with me in the lobbies that I play, which really sucks because I love Apex. I want more people to play with me, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean. If you don't play every day, you're screwed basically. If you want to play with me, and to be fair though, like I said, Respawn, the guys that the developers of Apex, these guys have actually fixed a ton of these issues I just listed. It's mostly Modern Warfare and Warzone that has this problem now. With Apex, they fix the dailies so they're not like a lot of them aren't hero specific, a lot of them aren't weapon specific, zone specific, and they softened the skill based matchmaking. They softened it a lot now, so things are back to normal on the Apex side, and people aren't complaining as much because people were complaining like crazy. Like I said, it's just now Modern Warfare. It's starting all over again for that game. And like I said, it's in Modern Warfare, it's in Warzone as well, and Cold War. Okay, so we finally both talked about our specific games that we play, Mir.
Yeah.
Now we're going to talk about one of the biggest flaws of skill-based matchmaking, strict skill-based matchmaking, and that is reverse boosting, okay? So let me explain what reverse boosting is in case you guys don't know. All it is you are manipulating, since we know there's an algorithm, and since we know what the algorithm's intention is, it's very easy to manipulate it, right? Because the only way it can tell your skill is by your accuracy, by your kills, right? Your performance and your score, all of that. So it's very easy to manipulate that by simply throwing your match. Play a match, don't get any kills. Spray at walls, have absolute zero accuracy, right? Kill yourself with nades. Just throw the entire match. Just tank your account as hard as you can. Just tank it. And what will happen is it will put you into that ultimate bottom bracket. And yeah, I mean, reverse boosting has never been easier. And that's the ironic part, Mir. It's made to protect these players, but now they're more susceptible than ever because you can specifically target them at any point. If you want to play against these bot lobbies or Timmy No Thumbs, you can. You can do it within 3 or 5 matches of both Apex or in COD. And like I said, it's crazy because we have content creators that are hungry for good content, pro players as well. They're all boned because they're trying to show a showcase of skill and they can't do it with strict skill based matchmaking. It's too hard, right? Because the things we talked about before about how the games are designed. So they literally will. Majority of these content creators will reverse boost, and it sucks to see because it's not even fun to watch.
Obvious too if you play the game.
It's so obvious and it's not fun to watch. You don't want to watch someone dropping like a 20 bomb or someone dropping a nuke when you see these players are not even shooting back. They look lost. They look like they have 70 FOV. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, it feels very, how can I put it, different to, like, as if they're not playing the same game that you are playing every day, right? Because you go into Modern Warfare and you kind of like, you get your lobby and, they're moderately hard, or at least whatever the skill-based matchmaking gave you, right?
yeah.
And then you go on YouTube and it's like, well, let's see how the pros do it. And you find someone that, like is a content creator, but is not like top 1 player in the world or anything like that.
Yeah.
And you see like these clips where, like you said, the other players are not even fighting back. Like, what the hell? Why can I not have this in my lobbies? Right? Like that's what you think.
Yeah, like why'd you get into the god lobbies? You know, because that's what it used to be before. It used to be before you kept on joining games until you find that god lobby, right? Before there was strict skill based matchmaking, you're trying to find it, hunt it down. But now you don't even need to do that anymore. You just need to reverse boost, and boom, you got it, right? And then you're put into hell again after you drop that nuke or whatever. So like I said, it's funny because now like these 20 bomb badges in Apex or these 4K damage and these nukes are easier to do than they ever were because of skill based matchmaking. And this also has a negative effect too on influencers. Mir, I'm just gonna say influencers, like top streamers or pseudo pros or whatever. The problem is like when these players, you know what I mean, when they have to reverse boost to showcase what they're capable of, like that's not fun for them either. They don't want to sit there and kill themselves with a nade 20 times. Or they don't want people to be like, oh, you're just stomping on noobs. That's not fun to watch, right? And it makes them not want to play the game, right? It makes it so that why should one side have fun and we don't? And why is it, unfair for us because we have dedication to the game? And if these influencers don't play, they quit and they stream another game, it's gonna have a negative influence because these influencers are just that. And when players are trying to get better and they're trying to learn the game, they look up to these players. When they see these players negatively talking about the games on Twitter, or they're not streaming, or they say that game sucks, I hate skill-based matchmaking, it's gonna trickle downhill, right? That's the one thing that all this data that EA and Activision is not putting into account is the side effect of these influencers. They're using these. They're literally paying streamers, Mir, to stream their game for a certain amount of time. That is how advertising is working this day and age. Like these is important. And when these players have a negative effect, it's going to it's going to send shockwaves downhill basically for the other players. I think it's bad in the long run. The more these types of games that aren't implemented well with skill based matchmaking, it's gonna become a problem in the future. I think this is gonna be the new cancer for gaming.
Yeah, I feel like the bottom line here is, at least for me, one way to quote unquote fix the situation here with Modern Warfare in particular is the fact that you should at least be given a choice on what kind of mode to play, right? Like what kind of skill-based matchmaking to go against, right? Like if I had ranked mode and I had the normal pubs casual mode, and I could say, okay, well, if I want to see how good I am, then I'm going to play ranked, right? And I'm going to end up at a certain rank, and that's the definitive proof that I'm that ranked, right? And then from there I can start saying, okay, well, now I need to improve. I know what my level is,
Right.
and then I have a casual queue where it's like, okay, well, now I need to level up all of my guns and do all the challenges, wacky challenges that the game gives you, which some of them are absolutely outrageous. Like there's like stuff like get 300 kills with a weapon with one attachment. Like that's one of the battle pass challenges, not battle pass challenges, but seasonal challenges. Clearly that's putting yourself at a disadvantage, right? Because you can put 5 attachments on a weapon without a problem in that game. So there's all these wacky challenges that they just put a weight on your shoulders. And I want to have a casual mode where I can kind of like, there's some skill based matchmaking, but it's not super strict. That'd be ideal, I think. Having the opportunity to choose. It's like I have a mode where I can see where I'm at, and I have a mode where I can just have fun, relax, play
Yeah,
the
just like
Call
in
of Duty
Street
that I
Fighter.
would used to.
Yeah, just like in Street Fighter, man.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll go back to the topic now on why Activision doesn't want to add ranked. So for these Call of Duty games, and I don't think they will, they're purposely not adding it because I think what's happening, what they're afraid of, is like these players that are protected. There's tons of players, more people than not, that don't know about skill based matchmaking at all. They don't realize that the system is making them, protecting them from these really good players, and that's why they're having a good experience with it. And what I think happens is if they do add a ranked, it'll kind of give these players a kind of a reality check because they're gonna have a big ego boost because I'm doing so well, I'm doing so good in the game, and they're gonna get ranked and they get stomped, and then they're gonna run into that same issue. They don't want those players to go anywhere near it, and that's why I don't think they're ever gonna add ranked to Call of Duty. That's why I don't think they're gonna do it because remember the whole thing is about making money. It's not for fairness in the first place.
No, I believe it. Even I think the last game that had ranked, I want to say, was Call of Duty World War II.
Well, Black Ops 4 had it. It just came in super late. Super late.
Yeah, I was about to say Call of Duty World War II also added it like 3 months from
from the next Call of Duty. It was insane. It took them forever.
Yeah, so they might do actually they might not do the same with Modern Warfare because of the fact that they might maintain Warzone, or actually without might, they're probably going to maintain Warzone as their own kind of like battle royale title. So it would be a bad idea to add it to Modern Warfare because of the reasons that you listed. So that might not even happen.
Right. I just added a note here. Something just popped in my head. Okay, so I think the final topic now will start to answer counterpoints to the most common complaints that people say that are in favor of strict skill-based matchmaking. The most common things you guys will hear against people that are like, man, strict skill-based matchmaking is good. So the most common thing that I hear, Amir, I don't know about you, but I hear is you guys hate strict skill-based matchmaking because you just want to stomp noobs. That's all you guys want to do is stomp noobs. You guys just want to, you know what I mean? You guys don't want to challenge yourselves or whatever. You just want to just destroy everybody. That's not true. What me and Amir want is fair matchmaking, open to the public. Anyone can join. No bias to anyone on any side. The funny part is when you say you don't want to stop noobs, it's more easier than ever to stop noobs now because all I have
Yeah.
to do is reverse boost and I can stop noobs whenever I want. If there is no skill-based matchmaking, I can't stop noobs whenever I want because it's completely random and open to everybody.
I
Another
mean, but
thing you have to understand is that not everybody is a noob, obviously. I
mhm,
think people are coming up with the premise that everybody's a noob. That's not how it goes. If skill-based matchmaking doesn't exist, some of your games are going to be easy and you're going to dominate. Some of them are going to be super sweaty. Everyone's going to be jumping corners and sliding and drop shotting. It's going to be super hard. And some games are going to be average. The point is that every game is going to be different, not the same. That's the
mhm.
difference between.
It's not
Uh,
just about the fact of we don't want any skill-based matchmaking at all, because as we discussed before, a lot of games did have skill-based matchmaking. It's just that it was tuned in such a way where it was very, very difficult to perceive, which is exactly what you want, I
yeah.
feel like, at least from casual game mode. Of course, ranked should have the strictest, skill-based matchmaking it can have, right? Because that's
Yeah.
the purpose of ranked. But in your casual game mode, if you're not able to tell that the game is artificially making your lobbies harder because you're doing better, that's good, because that's kind of like what the casual modes are for, right?
Mhm.
So and it's also, I mean, another way of seeing if you're doing better or worse, right? Because if you have basically a control group, which is like all lobbies are usually the same difficulty, then I can immediately see if I'm doing better or not with something, which I mean
Mhm.
is arguable, right? Like clearly this is not the only way of telling, but that's another factor I feel like that contributes to the uh, to the situation.
Right. So the next very common thing that I see all the time here is people say only the good or pro players are gonna have fun in the game. That's what you want. If we don't have skill based matchmaking, this also once again doesn't make sense because it follows a premise where uh like there's a small player base. It's a giant player base, and it's also assuming that you're gonna be better than everybody else. You know,
Hmm.
it's there's this saying, there's always gonna be someone better than you. There's always gonna be someone worse than you, so to speak, and it doesn't make sense because the chances of you going into a lobby and you're the best player there shouldn't be is only as rare as how good you actually are. And if you're like the top 5%, well, that's
Yeah.
extremely rare in that case, right? And sometimes you're gonna go against that top 5%. It's not gonna be always the same, which is like I said, once again, the point. Um, the average player is average skill level. You know what I mean? That's
Hmm.
where the bell curve is. So once again, assuming the player bases for games like Apex and Modern Warfare or Warzone are so massive, so huge that it's just so unlikely that that's gonna happen every single match. And that's
Yeah,
why
and
no one complained about it before, or no one noticed it before at
yeah, and
all.
talking about Apex, we have footage of us running into like how many pro teams and streamers like
Yeah, yeah, we play
that
against the best
only
players in the
happens
world. It's
because of
awesome.
skill-based matchmaking like that often. It's crazy.
It's awesome.
I mean, it is awesome, but at the same time, it's like that wouldn't happen normally, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, not with the frequency where it happens to us. At least.
Oh man. Oh, it's awesome if I'm not playing solo queue. That's for sure.
Well, I guess.
Okay, another popular thing people bring up is that why is it fair that a super noob should play a super pro? Um, this is another weird premise because a person that's a super noob, like the person that's like bottom of the barrel, whatever, is rare, very rare. And a
Yeah.
person who's a super pro is obviously extremely rare. Okay, like once again, I'm Predator and Apex. Predator is I'm top 0.01, like 0.02 out of like millions of players. It's so rare that you're gonna have one person that's like the 0.1 against another person that's a 0.1 on the other side. It makes absolutely zero sense. You know what I mean? So it doesn't make these the chances of running into one side is low, but the chances of both sides running too low is like it's not going to be every single game. Once again, it's like reverse skill based matchmaking
Even,
mirror where people think, you know what I mean, when they bring this up. It's strange to
even if
me.
you had like a bottom 30% against the top 30%, the skill differential in the middle of the group, it's actually not that high. It's when you go to the extremes that it becomes really noticeable,
Yeah.
right? So like when we were playing Apex, the second highest rank, well, I guess it's third highest rank now, it's Diamond. And with enough time, a lot of people get into Diamond, but then they get stuck at the bottom of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those players are, by statistics, in like a pretty high percentage. But compared to the really, really good players, like the Apex Predator, especially, which is what is it, top 500 now, and Master players, like they're not nearly as good. Like the comparison is very, very stark, very noticeable.
Yeah.
So you really have, like you were saying, you really have to take the extremes. You have to be a pro player against like a complete,
Bot. To me, no thumbs. Christmas news.
giving a thumbs, yes. You notice like that huge difference. And even then, even if it were to happen, which would happen in a scenario where there's no skill-based matchmaking at all,
Yeah.
it would be extremely rare. And if there is soft skill-based matchmaking, that probably wouldn't happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you'd still be protected from having pro players in your match. It's just that it would be a much larger bracket instead of having that super tight bracket that a strict skill-based matchmaking has.
Right. Okay. The next common thing I hear is you don't want to improve. Oh man, you have to lean back on that. Was a good one. That one. Oh dude, I got you with that one, Mir. What's going on, Mir? You just want to
All
stall the
right,
news. You
so
don't.
like I was
Oh my
saying
god, that
before,
reaction.
one of the easiest way to tell if you're improving is to have a control, right? So like
Mhm.
if you're put always in the same situation and then you start improving, you'll notice that you'll be doing better in that same situation, right? So as I was saying, in a battle royale, for example, it could be, oh, this match I finished. This is a really nice not comparison, but I think that I really like to talk about battle royale games and why I thought they were very suited to all kinds of players, even though you are not using skill-based matchmaking, right? Like let's assume there's no skill-based matchmaking in your battle royale, right? What
Mhm.
you can do is you can set yourself goals. So, like for example, you're not a very good player, like you just started playing. It's like, oh, okay, now my goal is I want to get to the top 20, right? There's
Mhm.
100 players. I want to get to the top 20. That's my goal. And then you start getting better at the game. And it's like, okay, now I want to go to top 15, top 10. And eventually you'll be like, okay, now I'm good enough to actually win a game, right? And that's the way you gauge how you've improved in a battle royale game, assuming that there's no, skill-based matchmaking, right?
Yeah.
Or strict skill-based matchmaking. But with strict skill-based matchmaking, there might be games that even though you're a complete newbie at the game, right? Like you don't know how to play because you're playing against other people that are just equally as bad. There are gonna be games that you have a very good chance of winning
Yeah.
because the game kind of like took pity on you, quote unquote, and put you in a bracket that is like much easier than normal.
Right.
So it kind of like works against you sometimes to determine whether you've improved or not. And this is the example of battle royale game. In Modern Warfare, again, you can look at your stats. There's so many stats in the game that you can look at that I would say that's very impressive. Like they keep track of everything. But another ways to compare with friends, like historically, that's always been the case, right? There were leaderboards in other games. Not all the games, but there were leaderboards in other games. And you could tell, right? Like you could compare with your friends. It's like, oh, my score per minute is this amount. Let's look at my friends that I know, what kind of a skill level they belong to. Oh, like his skill per minute is lower than mine. Oh, I'm better than my friend. That kind of stuff. And then you can brag and all of that, right? But it's an easy way to gauge your improvement and see how you are compared to everyone else, right? You can see who's the top of the leaderboard and compare with them. It's like, oh, I want to be like that guy that has a 15 kill death ratio. It's probably
Whoa,
not a
that's
hacker, I
insane.
swear.
15.
It's a good
Jesus.
way of telling if you're improving. Like I don't think playing against worse players, not worse players. That's improper. Playing in a situation where there's like only soft skill-based matchmaking stifles your improvement. I think that's untrue. First of all, it doesn't stifle your fun, but even then, there's a lot of ways of gauging that you're improving, right? Like if you take Call of Duty as an example, it could be, sometimes I go on a 2 kill streak, sometimes I go on a 5, sometimes I go on a 10, on a 15. Like those are all things that you can use, and it's still improvement. I mean,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah. My answer to this is really simple. Like when people say, you know, you don't want to improve, all I say is I do want to improve. That's why I play ranked. Sometimes I want to have
Yeah,
fun.
that's
I
good
play
to me.
public games. That's it. That's my only answer to that. I don't need to say anything else. Okay. Last common thing Mira hear all the time is why should players why should players that have no time or don't want to dedicate themselves, why should they have a bad experience and you have a good one? This
Well,
one, I take this one kind of personally because one thing I love about gaming mirror in general is
mhm,
like compared to like sports is like some, when it comes to like you know genetics or like if we say when I play basketball or something like you know you
mhm.
play you know you have to be really tall for example to have like a good advantage in it or something. With gaming, you know it you can dedicate your time. It doesn't matter how tall you are, you know how strong you are. You know there's some genetics when it comes to like reaction time and stuff, but for the most
Yeah.
part it's like I feel like it's a really even playing field. And if you want to dedicate yourself or you want to improve, you just put in more time, right?
Oh yeah. We have
And
great
there's nothing
examples in the
holding you
FG.
back, you know?
We have great examples in the FGC as well. I mean, I could bring up the example of Broly Legs. Like he's a person that clearly has a disability, but put in the time and the effort and became a great player. Like you can hang around with the best.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I played against him too. Yeah,
and I
many times.
assume that didn't go well, did
No, it didn't. I got destroyed.
it? But no, like talking about this topic, right? About people that don't want to put in the time, don't want to improve, and they still want the best experience. I mean, when I started playing video games online, I probably wasn't the best either. And I got beat up a bunch of times, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna become good. And so I did.
That's an awesome story, Mir. Tell me that story again.
And even
Dude,
then, there's still so much to improve, right? Like even right now, even though I'm better than average, I think at least at Call of Duty, I can say that much. I'm nowhere near the best players in this game. Like there's people in this game that even with the skill-based matchmaking and all, they managed to have like crazy KDRs and like get streaks sold the games and stuff just because they're that top percentage that like you cannot realistically put in a skill bracket of their own. Otherwise, it would take 15 hours to find a match, right?
mhm.
Uh, like there are players that you can look up to, even though you play the game for the entirety of your life and you try to become really good at. Like unless you're the best player in the world, there's always someone better than you.
That's the
It's
same.
just the way it works.
Yeah, like I grew up playing games in the arcades, man. Like there was no YouTube or any information on how to learn. I had to learn by spending money and losing money. Literally, you
Hmm.
know, 1v1 fighting games. That's just how it is, and that's how I see it. And like I said, if there's any player that you know they don't have the time, right, or they don't have the dedication, if they do want to put in the time, they do want to dedicate, they can improve. And by making a system that's supposed to be all about fairness, but it's more about making money. It's more about protecting these players and making them think they're better than they are, and at the expense of other side of players' fun is not something that I agree with, right? In general,
Yeah, yeah. Especially when the person that actually decided to improve spent a lot of time and effort on it.
right?
Like then I can just reverse the question, right? Why is it that a player that put in so much time and effort to become a better player, why shouldn't they have fun? Because that's what ends up
And why
happening.
should they have a bad experience? Yeah,
Yeah, why should they have a bad experience, right? Like I feel like those are more important to protect than the ones that just don't care.
right. And I
But
think
clearly, like you were saying, the company is like, well, those that don't care actually are the ones that spend the most money.
right,
So clearly, they're gonna protect them.
exactly. Exactly, and that's
It's
where the
difficult to
flaw of
defend,
it
I think.
is. That's why it's
Yeah.
hard to defend strict skill based matchmaking when you understand what it actually is, what it's really trying to do. That's why it's really hard to defend. You know what I mean? It's also it kind of sucks too because like a lot of this is not up to developers' choice. Like the people that do the matchmaking
Oh yeah, yeah,
for
for
Call of
sure.
Duty on Twitter, they've outright said, I never wanted this in the game, but Activision is forcing us to do it." Right? I'm sure
Hmm.
it's the same for Respawn and Apex, but they have fixed it a little bit. They're easing up on it because they're trying to improve it on EA's side. And you know it's better I think time spent and money spent to make player retention high, right? Is just by making the game better, making the game good, making it
Yes.
more balanced, making it more fun, making it fun even when you lose. I thought Overwatch did a good job of that when it first came out. I haven't played it
Hmm.
lately, But the whole loot box thing, even when you lose, you're gaining points. Even Street Fighter, it feels bad, man. When you lose, you don't gain anything. You don't even get fight money. And
I mean,
I think they should focus on more content where skill isn't a strong factor. You know?
like I thought of a comparison for like if Call of Duty and Apex were games, like if Street Fighter was built like those games, right? And a good
Mhm.
example of why hard skill based or a strict skill based matchmaking would be a bad idea, right?
Yeah.
Imagine if in Street Fighter you'd have to unlock the special moves to your characters, which is what happens with attachments and guns in Call of Duty, by the way,
Yeah.
right? Like there's no way around that.
Right.
And then you go and play. Let's say you just have one mode, right? There's no ranked, there's no casual, there's just play,
Yeah.
and you play against, uh, people that at the beginning it's gonna be people that also have to unlock stuff, and it's gonna be a fair fight. And then you're like, okay, well now I want to try out another character. Maybe the game rewards me for unlocking stuff for every character. Let's say I go and play, I don't know, Guile in ranked. Oh no, not in ranked. Sorry, in this only mode that you have,
Mhm.
and you only have Sonic Boom, you don't have Flash, and the other guy's got like their character fully unlocked, Akuma V
He's
trigger,
playing the meta,
whatever,
bro.
and then you just get bopped, and you're like, that was fun. Time to do it again.
Feels like that when I
You know?
play Alex, man. Yeah, it's like imagine having
It really
dailies
is
in
like
Street
this sometimes
Fighter
in
where
Call
it's
of Duty,
like,
which sounds hilarious if you
yeah,
word it like this, but it really is what it
it,
is.
it is what it is. Yeah, it's like logging in Street Fighter 5 and you have your dailies. It's like win 2 ranked matches with Alex. Use Jury V Trigger 2. Like imagine. You think your experience would be fun if you had to do that daily?
Yeah, especially if you don't have a choice, right? There's only that one mode, right?
Yeah, yeah,
At least
exactly.
in
If there's no
casual, you don't
ranked
lose anything.
or no player matches, just only ranked. Oh god.
Yeah.
What a joke. What a joke. Because like even pro players that when they're learning a new character or whatever, they'll play lobby matches in Street Fighter, right? So they don't go down
Oh yeah,
rank.
of course.
They literally they avoid it. But imagine there was no choice, right? Yeah. So we'll see how strict skill based matchmaking evolves, Mir. I mean, EA's got this new. You guys think it's bad now? We're talking about SBMM. Wait until you hear about EOMM. Right? They're trying to figure out more advanced. I'm not even kidding, guys. I'm joking. EA is trying to create this. It's called engagement optimized matchmaking. It's a new form. Your new cancer. EOMM, and basically what they're trying to do is it's an algorithm that makes it so that your first matches of the day are easy and you do very well, and then they progressively get harder during the day. I'm not joking, man. You can't make this shit up. They're literally evolving it. They're already testing it on
Imagine
Apex.
being in a
They're
world
already
where
testing on
this was
Apex. It is
deemed
crazy.
okay.
It's crazy. It's guys. It's kind of creepy. It's like trying to manipulate you, like on your actual skill. Oh, I can't wait to see what it's gonna be like in the next few years, man. It's gonna be
Reddit's gonna
nuts.
have a field day.
It's gonna be nuts. And it's hilarious too because like it's FPS games are so easy to learn and get into. They're so easy. You just pick it up and play. And fighting games, like the only thing they have to work on for retention in FPS is just like the skill based matchmaking, right? And the players they play, they're like not playing any good. But for fighting games, retention is completely different, right?
Yeah.
It has, you know what I mean? Like we already have skill based matchmaking, but it's like it's so extremely complicated because it's the entry level for fighting games is so hard at the lowest levels. And it's funny, like if you dropped that, if that EA document on skill based matchmaking fell into Capcom's lap or any Japanese developer, they're like, "What? We invented this decades ago. Why you guys copying our shit? This stuff doesn't work." You know, it's so interesting when you compare it to fighting games how different it is. Skill based matchmaking and retention and all that. They're going the other route, the route that I want these FPS games to go, where they're trying to focus on, you know what I mean, the net code, making sure everything's stable, more modes, more fun things to do. It's going the other direction. It's interesting, man, and it's definitely worth talking about.
As long as they don't ruin it with some weird like matchmaking strategy like EA is proposing to do, then
Yeah,
I'll be fine with it.
yeah,
Imagine if you get matched with bronzes every time, like you're a gold player, you get matched with bronzes for your first 2 matches, and then like diamonds and grandmasters, they're all
Oh man. Okay, I think that's pretty much all the points I wanted to make, Mir. I think we've
Mhm.
gone through it in great detail.
Yes, we
So
have.
once again, like I said, me and Mir, we're against strict skill-based matchmaking for specific games. We think it works flawlessly in many, many, many other games. And soft skill-based matchmaking. Now you guys know the difference.
Yeah.
Now you guys know what it's really about, what it's really for these developers. And hopefully you guys can spread the word, or you guys can make a more informed opinion. If you guys disagree with me and Mir on strict skill-based matchmaking for games like Apex or CoD, like be sure to leave in the comments. I'll be sure if you guys have a good point to bring up that some pros about it, even though I don't think there are any. Go ahead. If I ignore your comment, it probably means that we already went over it in the video. But this is a really long-winded video. I think I'm gonna put timestamps like right on the screen mirror when the video starts,
Mhm.
so people can go to the specific subjects. They don't want to hear us rant on about our specific games that we play, because there's just so much to talk about. I guess I could literally
Yeah.
write a book on it on how it is because we talk about it
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
all the time. But I'm glad you're able to join with me, Mir, on this. And now whenever someone talks to me about skill-based matchmaking, I just direct them to this video, and I don't have to go on a 2-hour rant on my stream. I can just take a breath of
The
fresh air.
video
Like
can do it
I
for
already
us.
explained it. Why don't you like skill-based matching? You just want to stop noobs, Vesper. Don't you want to improve, Mir?
Exclamation mark SBMM on Twitch.
All right, guys. For fighting gamers, we got the Tokyo Game Show for the Dan Showcase, and hopefully more Champion Edition news coming up Saturday morning. So hopefully by the time you've seen this video, you might have that updated already. I don't know when I'm going to release this video because it's going to be a long one, but hopefully we'll get some more Street Fighter news here. So yeah, I'll see you guys around. Me and Mira will be back some more topics, and we talk specifically Street Fighter 5, of course, next time. All right, Mir. See you later, guys. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye bye.